And so it's my job to sort of to look at all that and then package it in a way which is easy to understand for an individual who might be interested in losing fat, for a coach or personal trainer who might want to lose fat themselves or would be more interested in getting really good results with their clients. And then, if you're working with elites, exactly the same principles apply. And this is why I sort of, when I'm doing these courses, I always kind of do a big mind map, because it helps me just focus and pinpoint particular areas that you may need to look at. And also when you're talking to clients and you draw a picture like this, it kind of makes them understand things in a little bit more detail. So essentially what I've done here, this is the environment, so this is the world we live in. This is the availability of different foods, different supplements. It's the advertising around food.
Is that your screensaver that's given the
yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit hard to read.
Is it?
Can you turn that up so we can...
I can't without it coming up with a huge warning message. I tried unplugging computer.
Oh, right.
Can you see that all right, everyone? Mostly?
It's quite hippie though, so it's...
Yeah. In the break, in the break, I'll try and turn that off so that you can have a little look. And feel free, we can add to this. If anyone's got any extra ideas on here, pipe up. One of the biggest things here is just the sheer number of different diets that you can follow. There must be over 10,000 books plus on Amazon that you can buy with a lot of conflicting methodology in there. And then we're fighting against this as well, advertising. My son was watching telly the other day and he was like, "You got to buy me that breakfast cereal." And it wasn't a very good one. And I said, "You're not having that, it's not good for you." And he said, "Dad, the telly doesn't lie." And I was like, "Oh my God, right, this is we're constantly fighting advertising, and then we're fighting availability. So if you combine the wrong kind of desire with advertising and free availability, it's clearly an immediate problem, because people are drawn towards foods that they might be addicted to, and then if you give an addict free reign, then they're going to fill their boots. Next section, and Gavin's going to be talking a lot about how you subtly change people's behaviour, goal setting, and use techniques that takes the desire out of the equation, really. But the interesting thing for me is if you've got a brain which is prone to addiction, well, how can we support that with food and supplements to put the brain in a state which makes decision making slightly better? So, for example, it's known that fish oils are very useful to reduce cravings and settle down neurotransmitters, increasing serotonin, the happy hormone, which might make people desire less carbohydrates to fulfill that serotonin pathway. Then we've got the whole side of things which, if someone's been overweight for a long period of time, or if they've been eating a poor diet for a long period of time, they may be depressed, they may have poor body image, low self-esteem, and this will feed into the vicious cycle of dieting, where people try to diet, they find it's too restrictive, they binge eat, it reinforces the negative body image, and so on and so forth. Body image may be distorted in very thin people who actually see themselves as fat, and similarly, sometimes you can get very overweight people that don't appear to sense they have any problem. And one of the problems with that is people aren't maybe body aware. So something I've noticed is that people that gain fat gradually are people that wear t-shirts a lot and don't tend to have mirrors around the place, so they don't actually often see themselves naked, so they're not aware of how fat they've become. A friend of the family the other day, he's lost 3 stone, and I said, "Well, what was your motivating factor to the weight loss?" And he said, "I saw my reflection, I thought it was somebody else in the mirror." And you think to yourself, well, how come it took that long before you were aware? He didn't have very many mirrors in his house. I had a little inspection when I went around there for dinner. And then we got the body. So the body obviously produces hormones, and it will produce hormones in relation to the environment, the food, the supplements you take in. It'll also produce hormones in relation to how the brain perceives stress. I left that one out, it's a big one. And if the hormones are out of balance, then you have what's called a blocking factor, where this bit could be right and this bit's not right. So this needs correcting in order that the body can mobilize fats, build and retain muscle tissue properly. And there's all kinds of reasons why this will get out of balance. Another one that I didn't put down, so this is probably going to toxicity, is that right? Maybe not, but anyway. So environmental toxins feeding into the food chain get stored in body fat and can actually disrupt the whole endocrine system, and that's well documented in the literature now. And then on top of that, the muscle and the fat stores are now known to be independent endocrine organs, in that if you train hard, if you train your muscles very hard, they'll produce hormones like IGF-1. If you train hard with weights, when you train hard with weights, you produce hormones like growth hormone. It can help spike testosterone. And then the fat will also produce inflammatory hormones. If you have a high level of body fat, the fat stores themselves can produce inflammatory cytokines, which is one reason why, if you're fat, it's very easy to continue to get fat. And when you're lean, it's kind of a self-perpetuating philosophy. It's much easier to stay lean because the muscles are producing hormones which are associated with leanness. Okay, so that's the sort of mind map. And then if you're talking to clients and you've got all that in your mind, and you've taken a very detailed history, or an athlete, then you'll know all this about your athlete. You'll have bloods, you'll have questionnaires around motivation, depression. You'll understand their personality, so you'll understand the motivations and their belief. And then you should have a very detailed knowledge of the environment that's feeding into the athlete. Is there someone need to come in? Oh, no, okay. And then if we just look at one, now this I will need to change. Okay, where's that thing? And if you look at just one of those factors, one of those hormones, which we're going to be talking about a lot today, is insulin. I mean, insulin really is one of the key things that you need to control. Oh dear, Jesus. Stop. Okay, hopefully I can stop the hidden. Jesus. Okay, there we go. Right, yeah, so it's still vitally important to understand the role that insulin has in blood glucose regulation, in storage and so on. And we'll be going into this in detail right throughout the day. But I just wanted to speak quickly about how this all feeds in, because you've got different things which will stimulate insulin. See, I've got a pointer here. Obviously, you've got sugar and carbohydrates. You've got the secretion of insulin, and then you've got the cellular receptors. So cells have got varying ability to be responsive to insulin. This will become more apparent as we go through the morning, and I won't dwell on this now. Only to say that your body has insulin sensitivity to varying degrees in varying tissues. Okay, so basically, the liver has insulin sensitivity, the muscles have insulin sensitivity, and the fat has insulin sensitivity. If you eat a very high carbohydrate diet, it's a bit like going to a disco and having a very loud music on. After a while, you can't hear as well, your ears become dulled. And hormones and receptors are the same. If you have an excessive amount of a hormone, prolonged stimulus of the cell will downregulate in its responsiveness to that hormone. So if you have excessive exposure to sugars and insulin across a lifetime, the body will become insulin resistant in a gradual manner. But the first thing that becomes insulin resistant is the liver. The second thing that becomes insulin resistant is the muscle. And then fat cells don't really become insulin resistant until you're very, very obese, but then actually you will get some insulin resistance, so there will be a cut-off point in how fat some people can become. Right. So what I wanted you to do, we will be covering all the questions that I've asked you today, is just have a little think about what your personal motivation might be around fat loss, or what your client's motivation might be around fat loss. And I'm going to try very hard today to identify the particular thing that is important for fat loss, then try and tell you why that is important for fat loss, and then try and give you an ability to measure that thing so you can see if it's improving or not, and then strategies to improve that. Now, fortunately, there's a lot of different ways you can become ill, but there's a finite amount of ways that things can actually go wrong in the human body. We're going to be talking across most of these areas today. We won't be spending that much time on structure, but we'll be looking at what goes in, how well you can get it out of the body. We'll be talking quite a lot about inflammation, and we'll be talking about hormones. And this is the musculoskeletal system, so I guess we'll be talking about muscles and exercise, and how the best methods there are training-wise in order to lose fat. How many people here have been on a paleo diet, or not that many? A few? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, good. Yes. So more than half. So I'll go through exactly what a Paleolithic diet is, but actually it's eating closer to how nature intended it to be as possible. But I still feel there are certain negative aspects to a Paleolithic diet, even though if you look at the research, following a Paleolithic diet for about 2 weeks will increase insulin sensitivity, will decrease all the metabolic risk factors. So in a very short space of time, you can improve your response to sugar and insulin. And that was it even reduced blood pressure over a 17-day period. They had 3 days where they kind of cleaned up a bit, and then they went full-on paleo for 14 days. They didn't lose any weight, but they weren't doing that much exercise. Now, this first sort of half an hour that I'm going to be chatting, I'm going to cover some of the sort of obesity and diabetic statistics, which are really quite alarming and frightening. And within that, what we're going to find is there's a difference in philosophy from what the government and a lot of mainstream medical community believe is the way forward for health and preventing heart disease, and what actually might be working in terms of proper ability to reduce and control excessive fat stores. And we're on a mission to try and improve the health of the nation, particularly the health of children, and stopping them getting fat.